Manx National 2-day trial, run annually in the Isle of Man, is the British Isles' biggest motorcycle event of its type. It started in 1955 and quickly established itself as an event catering for top stars and once-a-year club-level riders. Around 350 take part in 2 days competitive riding involving around 80 observed sections spread along a route of 75 miles, taking in the very best off-road scenic terrain that the island can offer. In contrast to the world-famous TT, there's no element of racing in the Manx trial, just an overall time limit to complete the course, which generally takes about 8 hours each day. For the solos, the first day goes south, and we pick up the action at Colley Mines, where riders face a tricky slow-speed test in the shadow of the spoils of the former lead mine near Foxdale. So the riders just limbering up after their ride on the road to get to Colley Mines, probably 10 miles of sitting on the saddleless bikes, really just crouching on them more or less. The first rider we see is Kaylee Price of Torridge, young lady there handling her machine pretty well, and you can see the throttle control that's necessary to get up these sharp steps and then back down again. See the suspension moving on the machine as she lowers it gently down and trying to retain your balance. No marks lost up to now, and tricky round there, the back end of the bike can break away, but up the steps she goes, and just between the flags at the end, the blue to the left and the red to the right, for what's called a clean. No marks lost, in other words. And now we move on to newcomer Michael Ward of the Spen Valley Club, tackling the same section. Slightly faster approach for him, but looks a bit nervous on the drop down. Quite a steep bump down that. Probably second gear. Could be done in bottom, but second would give you more grip. Now he's struggling a little bit for the last step, but holds it nicely and makes a recovery, and he also loses no marks as the observer puts down and signals the next rider to come on. And this is another newcomer also from Clive. It's Graham Evans. And you see all the masterly control that trials riding involves. You have to go practicing a long time to have the skill to do this sort of thing. Front brake on down there. Now the brake's off, just holding it on the back brake. A tricky little rock step at the end, and there's his left foot out, and that costs him 1 mark. And it's the riders who go through the trial with the least marks who of course win. And often enough groups of riders get together, they all enter together, act the goat, have a great social weekend, and it's not just about full of competitiveness. A gang there of the early numbers at Colley, and next to go we see David Harding, local man from the Peveril Club, who in fact he's chairman of the Manx Trials Club as well, and is also president of the Manx Motorcycle Club, so plenty to do. And he's a stockbroker, so this is obviously something completely different for him of a weekend. Over he goes on the 4-stroke 4RT Montesa. Second gear on it, I don't doubt. Perhaps bottom, and he almost put his foot down, but just resisted the temptation and held on to it. Clutch control is paramount as the riders walk the section to try to work out which is their favoured line. And Steve Ragg, a newcomer, makes a cautious look at the section and stands out of the road because he's now number 86, Nick Life from Morton Hampstead. And he's got the green number plates, which means he's tackling the more difficult version of the trial. Look, he turns tight there, flicks the background, very great control up the steeper part of the rock steps, but that is made to look effortless by him. Peter Archer from Leamington Victory now, number 44, and he's having a bit of a struggle as we move now on to South Barrule Quarry. This is a much more difficult proposition than Colley, and as you can see it's slates, and the riders are having a terrible struggle, particularly early on where there's no pathway. As the entry of 275 solos goes through, sometimes a path evolves, and of course in the muddy sections the earlier you are the better, so it swings and roundabouts. Having quite a struggle, and is assisted up the step there by Russell Sprigg. He's lost 5 marks for stopping, so he cannot do any more except rescue his machine from this very difficult path. And you see the height of it there by the spectators in the background. He's put his foot down there, but as he's already stopped in that section, he doesn't lose any more. Now one of the local competitors, Johnny Neen, but he's also failed to mount this pathway up from the bottom gate. 4-stroke machine there, but not delivering sufficient grip for him to have anything other than 5 marks. Now Andrew Cannell, another local man riding for the Ramsey Club. He gives it plenty of stick too. Will he get up? He's nearly there, but just at the point where it gets its steepest, the back wheel spins out, and Andrew, competent though he is, also tots up a 5-mark penalty and lays the bike down now as he tries to get it back onto terra firma and go for the next section. 23 is Brent Seal, a newcomer. Second gear and flat out, going, the back spinning but nothing doing. It really is murder there, and you'd need to be going very, very fast to get up there. Perhaps later on, when the rocks move to give a smoother passage into it, there might be better hope for them. Ben Sprigg now has a go. He's on the expert route, which is even harder, though in fact sometimes it works out that the expert route actually works out easier than the clubman, but not on this occasion. Steve Harris from Redditch, almost at the top, and in fact he's still on the bike. He might, if there's a generous observer there, get what's known as a 3 for footing. I think he believes he's got it, and if the observer is charitable, he'll let him away with that. He's Russell Sprigg again now on the clubman route, the white number plates on the front of the machine, but too slow, I'm sure, for there. You just get to the point of no return. You believe you're going to do it, but in fact you don't. 6 gears on these trials bikes, but only the first 3 really used for the observed sections. And there's another rider having a good go, and the rest are wondering what on earth can we do to get up this bank. That's the way. Look at that for a spirited attempt, but you can see now just how steep and how slaty that bank is as Ian Spency comes to a stop and reflects that South Shropshire, where he comes from, perhaps is not quite so rough. Mist just coming in a bit there, but that won't matter. And there's the route directions to show the riders the way between the groups of observed sections. As we move along the tracks and paths of the island, this is half the fun of riding in the Manx 2-day, a big gang. Not going fast, you notice, just riding steadily along, conserving energy. And it's a long old day on the trail. But now, something different here at Pipeline. And he's a young lady going first, Kaylee Price, as she did at Kennelly, up the steps in the stream. And in fact, it's not too slippery because it had been used in a club trial a few weeks before, and that's polished the moss off the rocks. But it's tight through this gap now. Got to watch you don't catch your feet and the footrests. But she's done that, and if she can get it out the end, it's a clean out through the F cards for the finish of the section. Number 47, Martin Gilbert from Devonport. Probably second gear for this section. See his left finger working the clutch, right fingers on the throttle, back brake, little disc brakes on the machine. Can he get through the gap? No, he has a dab, as it's called, with his left foot, and that costs him 1 mark. But when you tot them up, most riders losing a couple of hundred in a weekend, the odd one doesn't matter too much. Simon Levitt then, enjoying his first Manx 2-day. Through the gap he goes very competently. Can he hang on to it now? You see he's flexing his knees. Still slippery right at the very end there as the cavalry comes up. This is a local mob here inspecting it now. A bit of a group queue is building up, but it's not too bad until there's more than about 30. Once it's after 30 in a group, then you start to worry about keeping on your overall time limit. Now we're at Glen Rushen. This again is a stream, but it's not slippery. There's loads of grip on this, and it's a matter of keeping moving quite quickly, really, much quicker than previously. Andy Hipwell there making a good job of it, and Simon Hayes from Bolton. This is definitely a second gear section here, up over the slates and slabs, steeper than it looks, and you need confidence when your bike's at a funny angle like that. And he almost puts his feet down. There he does, that's 1. He'll probably, and you see him move straight into the next section. They are continuous, those 2 sections. That's not very common, but suits this place because you couldn't stop in the middle and restart. Now the queue's moving forward, everybody banging and barging, but they're fairly civilised about it all. Neil Williams, number 120 from the WTRA, again another newcomer, and the clubman's class much better supported, probably because it's a little bit easier for the novices, though to win it you've got to be almost as good as being in the expert class. Up the stream it goes, no front brake being used, no back brake either, just keeping moving. 170, Chris Hayes there, and into the narrower part, the top section. And just a week after this, all that was completely flooded and couldn't be used for the event the following week. Looks like a puncture here for one of the competitors, putting a new inner tube in and checking the back chain. These components get terrible hammer in this exacting sport, and you've got to be adjusting your machine as we move right to the south now near Castletown in the Isle of Man, and this is Scarlet on the volcanic rockery overlooking the Irish Sea, and the early numbers tackle fearsome looking sections. No give in this, plenty of grip for the wheels, but the riders enjoy no comfort on these if something goes wrong. It's all slabs, it's all throttle control. Bottom gear for this, number 3, Richard Woodfield from Berkhamsted. Down now into the rock pools. No lobsters in there yet, and he doesn't get up that step, steps off it, and that incurs a 5-mark penalty. You've got to just flick the front up. It's a lot harder than it looks. And the spectators there giving the payout on the criticism. Now Daniel Cole from Earl Shilton, number 71. He looks confident enough. Not too bad on that first bit. Flicks it nicely up onto the rocks. You can pick where you want to go, providing you go between the flags. Now then, can he get up the step? Now. Presses down on the front forks, makes all of it, and he just hangs on by the skin of his teeth, and out through the end card he goes. With young Thomas Sharkey there observing. He'll be one of the schoolboy riders of the future, I'm sure. And there's past winner Steve Colley, 10 or 11 wins he's had in the past. And there's Katie Sunter, very good rider from Yorkshire, number 99, chatting over what line to take. She doesn't look that confident about it. And here's David Harding again on the Montesa, and he's struggling a bit. David, son of a famous motorcycling family, the Hardings. His father was a great rider, but he doesn't make it up there, and he damages club property by breaking the flag in half. We'll have to send him the bill. So David looks as if he's having a tough time. I think all the duties he's got to perform elsewhere have taken their toll on him. And there's Steve Colley now, concentrating hard. The main thing for Steve Colley is not that it's difficult, it's making sure that nothing untoward happens. He did once actually complete the event without losing any marks at all. But it's got a bit harder since those days. It's Tom Manley from Torridge on the experts version of the section, the harder version. And up on the more pointy rocks now, up that big rock step. In fact, that doesn't look too bad, but this is tricky at the end. And can he find the line? Got to go between the flags. If you miss those, it's equally 5 marks penalty. 5 for a stop. It's a non-stop event, this. In some events you can balance while you're stopped, but not in this Manx 2-day trial. And that's a clean for him. And now, here's Colley. And one little slip, and his win can get away from him. He's pressed pretty hard throughout the event, but he doesn't have any trouble riding the sections. They're easy to him after his world-class trials career for 15 years. But one little stone can spell disaster, or a missed flag, or the engine cuts out, anything. And Colley marches on and makes that absolutely simple. In fact, I reckon he could ride over that wall at the back. I think he has done in the past, out practicing. And now here's Dan Thorpe, one of Colley's big rivals, number 101, Dave Thorpe's son, Sheffield men, and he's young Nigel Crellin, going exceptionally well. Just won the British Schoolboy Championship, only just old enough to ride on the roads, and riding this machine with great verve. He's definitely a star of the future. Practices for hours and hours and hours, and let's see what he does on this. Lowers it down. This is one of his practicing grounds, so he should know the way, although you're not allowed to practice the sections before you actually ride them. But he knocks that off all right, and the others look on in wonderment. I wish I could do that, they think. Now 38, Julian Cartwright from Bryden Hills, also gets up that step with ease. You see them flexing the suspension with their knees, and at the end, when they get older, their knees will be completely shot. But there's his right foot down for a mark, and his left foot down, and he goes backwards, and I'm afraid that is a 5 for him. Often enough you can put your feet down deliberately to help to save 5 marks, but you also incur 3, and you're always trying to not have any marks at all. This is Saskia Baxter, one of the Isle of Man young lasses. Fairly new to trials, but already going well. Daughter of Raymond Baxter, former sidecar rider. And here's Dan Thorpe. Let's see if he puts any more marks onto Colley. He's got to emulate Colley's clean here. They don't throw any marks away at all. See him just flicking the back to make sure he's perfectly lined up. The rest watching here. Thorpe could win this. And also rides in the classic trials on a Bultaco just to fill the time in. And the weather's improving as we look out over the Herring Tower at Langness. And this now is Robin Arnold riding for the Peveril Club. In the deep water there, whatever waterproof machine, this is tight, and he hits something there and it stops forward progress. I'm sure he thinks he's still okay for a 3, but I would think if the marshals are severe, he'll get a 5 for that, which means he stopped. Well, he did stop, but if you get a marshal who's a bit lenient, he might give it to you. And here's Thorpe again, tackling the same section. See how narrow, how tight it all is. The tyres scrabbling for grip, about 5 pounds in the back tyre and 7 or so in the front. And the suspension working absolute overtime, but a clean it is for Thorpe. And now number 100, and this is his father, Dave Thorpe, past World Trials Championship round winner, and has been riding for 30 and more years, and still highly competitive, particularly when riding in the classic trials, of which this of course is not one. And he knocks that off with consummate ease. And now we turn to Miles Jones from Denbigh and Mould. Quite a drop into that section, you've got to be perfect on your line. Then on the left hand side of the pool, but he's struggling a bit there, and his feet are down now, and he's hoping to get through without stopping. Whether he did or not there is up to the marshal to decide. I would think he'd get a 3 on that for his feet down, perhaps even a 2. Quite tricky down here on the seaside at Scarlet. The water not too deep there, it can be much deeper than that before the bikes will conk out. High level exhausts. As Sean Quay, riding for the Ramsey Club, goes through, another competent youngster of the very popular Isle of Man trials scene. And Craig Robinson from the Manchester 17 Club. Look at his knees apart as he drops in there to make sure the bike does the work. Clutch in, bottom gear this will be. And flicks it up, he's hanging on very slowly, but at the front goes over. And out goes his left foot for 1 mark, and he says that will do, I don't want any more. See the flags coming up through there, and he's out for 1. And it'll be the rider who goes round without the dropping of marks who will win. And it's been done without any, but only once ever. Doug Lampkin did it for 1, but Colley did it without any marks at all 1 year. Now number 94, Robert Shuttleworth from Westmoreland on the Italian Beta machine. And he's off, he's struggling there on those steps. And another 5 is added to his card. But a lot of them don't care, they're just out for the ride. And the wives, girlfriends, lovers, etc. all gathered saying, pity about that. Now number 73, Neil Jones again. Clutch in, you see there, working with his left. Which gear is he going for? First or second? Right forefinger on the front brake. And he's still changing gear, so he's elected to go for bottom rather than second gear. This is a different section here now, a little bit tricky, tight turn right, and you must be inch perfect. Through between the red and the blue, just ever so slowly, moving your body forward and back. And the little Italian 2-stroke 250cc machine. Now the step, come on now. Flicks the suspension down. Isn't it easy when you know how? And isn't it hard when you don't? Still not out yet though. No time limit for the sections. In some events you have an overall time limit on each individual section, 1.5 minutes, and he's lucky, he hangs on there, just gets away with it. That was almost, and the spectators generous with their applause. I thought he'd stop, but he hadn't. As we move now to Knockfroy, the Peveril Motorcycle Club's motocross course, where some trial sections have been laid out. And here's Steve Colley. This is a different thing altogether here. This is mud and soil and rocks, but Colley flicks the bike round almost, makes it torque up and over, and that's the kind of thing he thrives on. They are man-made sections, these, and here's Steve now to tell us all about that first day.
Yeah, good day. It's first time out. We were just on the new 07 bike today for the very first time. It only came a couple of days ago, and didn't have a chance to run it in or anything, but it's ran like a dream all day. Had a 5 early on today in the rain and in the mud up at South Barrule, and then I had a dab this afternoon at Ballarrock, and that's me 6 foot today. So not too sure where that is, but I think you'd like to Dan Thorpe and the other guys maybe around 10, 11, something like that. So maybe 1 or 2 advantage going into tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be a difficult day. It always is the second day, and fingers crossed.
And after the first day, it is Steve Colley on the gas in the lead. 6 marks lost for the entire day. Those at the end of the field would hardly believe it. Dan Thorpe, though, still well in touch on 9 on another gas, and young Nigel Crellin on 20 completes the top 3. So it's Colley versus Thorpe for the lead, and then Nigel Crellin nicely placed, fending off a tight group on 23 marks, Nathan Wrigglesworth, Richard Elwood and local rider Dewan Knight. So 6 marks for Colley for an entire day's riding, but 1 more day to go and he's only 3 marks ahead. The slightest slip could spell difficulty, but Colley's unlikely to throw it away unless something disastrous happens. In the clubman's, the leader is Simon Levitt. He and local rider Neil Christian have lost 11 on the first day. Gary Bingley is third on 14, Scott Dammit on 19, Mark Barrow 20 and Jeremy Darlington on 21. It's tight at the front and it's tight all the way down through the field, just the odd mark separating the places. And after a night's rest and a chance to look over the bikes, fettle them up, the second day is ready and still the mist lingers, but it's not spoiling the event very much as we start off at Ballamodar and young Nigel Crellin running third in the trial. Not much real hope of catching Colley or Thorpe, but intending to try to finish in the elite top 3. And here we go as he tackles a very different section altogether. Rob Harris of Llangollen. This is leaf mould and mud as he goes up the bank round the back of the tree. This is all observed section and the rest start looking to see where he went. And then Neil Gibson of the Southern Club here, number 207, on a twin shock machine, no monoshock suspension on that one. That's an old timer, but he still gets through okay. As we move now to Manchester 17 rider 177 Darren Gilman, but first of all the others still looking it up and down to make sure they have got their line worked out. You don't have to go the same place, you can go either side so long as you go between the flags. You can choose whatever gear you want, and you'll often see the rider's left foot moving in this section as they change up to a higher gear for this climb. It's not too bad though, but it would be murder if it rained, and of course with a 3-hour spread of riders from number 1 to number 275, that can often happen. But you pick up the high numbers here because the trial reverses its starting order for the second day. So number 1 is right at the back this time to make it even and spread it out. It doesn't always work, of course, if the weather changes. 181 Paul Turner from Manchester 17, and second gear up round there, and that's effortless to him. But there are some tree roots and you can easily fly over the handlebars if you get it wrong. Richard King there, the observer, just keeping an eye on him. And up he goes in second gear, perhaps third, round the back of the tree and plummets down to the finishing cards of that section. 169 Chris Grundy from Bolton, and enjoying good weather conditions really. The mist is not much of a problem, and overhead it's very pleasant, not too hot either, which it can be sometimes. Quite a hot sweaty business riding these bikes for 8 hours a day for a couple of days. And number 160 is Stuart Blythe from Ripon. Good trials country up there in Yorkshire, so we will have had plenty of practice. Mostly rocks in Yorkshire though, not much of this sort of going. This is more southern centre going really, where the boys from the south get a chance to have the type of section that they would normally ride on a Sunday afternoon. Tight there though, the front wheel almost got away from him. He's in trouble there, but he's got it back with a good bit of throttle control and clutch coordination with the brakes. 161 Paul Dennis from Richmond, where the famous Scott trial takes place every October. That's a really punishing event. Not that this one isn't, but that one is a race out and out. This is not. Dennis then tricky round, front brake on, and he's got the expert section to do, so it'll be higher up the bank. See how slowly he's got a much tighter turn to make. Front brake on, clutch in, just blipping the throttle, make sure the engine doesn't stall, then drop the clutch and slip up the bank. See, he's got there's not the room to work like the clubman's version of the section. Here's Saskia Baxter, complete with lipstick, face makeup. There's she moving her gears there from first to second for this climb. Could be even second to third, but probably first to second. Using first gear on the first part, she drops down very quickly at the end. Once you see the ends cards, you can just let the bike roll. And he's the trial leader, Steve Colley, and he knows that it can be done, but he's got to be on his very best concentration all day. As I say, it's not that the sections are hard, it's just that one slip and Dan Thorpe will be passed and into that first place. But Colley going for a record 12th victory. And he's been riding since he was 8 in the Isle of Man, and he and Nigel Crellin seem quite relaxed about it all. He's Nigel on the gas. His machine is only a 125cc machine. Because of his age, you're not allowed to ride the 250s or the 300 models, but it doesn't seem to make much difference to him. It's a highly tuned engine. He has to rev it a lot harder, but look at the way he flicks the background. Now that's total throttle control and familiarity with his machine, and that is marked clean for him. Now Steve Colley, the red rims on his bike. This is a very powerful machine. It'll be a 280cc machine, this one. Bags of power would go up the side of a house in 3rd gear. And he just goes round there. Just make sure though, by flicking the background, to get straight on the next bit. That's the idea. The old-time riders never did anything like that, and now they ride in trials and they can't master that skill, which is exclusive to the youngsters. And there's Colley, see the front high up in the air, higher than it probably needed to be. Back wheel off the ground, blasts it up to that tight corner now, up and out there. That's a tricky exit really, but nowhere near as tricky as it would have been had it been wet. Nigel Crellin, he's struggling up just a little bit there. The front comes up a bit higher than he wanted. See the back brake skid down, that's his right foot on the back brake. And into that tight corner he goes. 2nd gear, puts his body back, lets the engine revs build up and looks back. There's Ewan Knight now. He and his brother David, fantastic competitors. David, World Enduro Champion. And Ewan Knight past Enduro British Champion and past British Trials Expert too. As we move on to the rest of the field, with the numbers descending of course. Nigel Wrigglesworth from Bradford. Again a thriving trials area up there. Bradford, Shipley, all round there. Loads of trials every weekend. He goes up that bank at the end. Here's Ewan Knight now, no gloves on. Ewan, his father used to ride with his jacket open all the time, so laid back with it, but Ewan prefers this casual approach. Quite a pounding on the wrists and the ankles in this sport. See a little bit of grass hanging to his boots there, that won't worry him as he leans the bike round and goes there. Definitely 2nd gear up there, could be 3rd in fact, because it's very steep and you need to keep the wheel from spinning. Now Dan Thorpe and Katie Sunter. Thorpe of course just 3 behind Colley. If Colley comes to grief, Thorpe will be there, but it's, I think, the first ride on this section of the day for the riders just warming up after their overnight halt. A few beers sunk no doubt overnight. This is John Shipley from Frodsham on the 2-stroke Montesa. There's a mark gone to start the day. That won't worry him too much. Here's Katie Sunter now, en route to a good place I'm sure. Just puts the front wheel wider, keeps in the groove. Tricky now, just controlling it. And up, slowly does it. Keep the revs down so as the back wheel does not spin and prevent further progress. Phil Disney from Bradford, number 165 there, going well on the Beta. Gases are from Spain, the Betas are from Italy. You have Shercos and Scorpas and Montesas, and it's a personal choice. They're all much the same really, except that the new Montesas are 4 strokes and they tick over at 1500 revs, which takes a bit of mastering by those who are not used to them. Now Dan Thorpe still keeping the pressure on Colley, making him an honest leader. Thorpe there wiggling between the trees, just touches the back brake which locks the wheel momentarily. Now down into this tight right-hander and up to the end, and not even a moment's trouble for him. And we leave the beautiful Baldwin Valley with a glimpse of Simon Welch from Gloucestershire and Cotswolds area, and he flicks the beat around. Much quicker ride through the section. You can go whatever speed that suits you. Some prefer to go very, very slow, some prefer to go quickly, most go at a medium speed. But up he goes and out of that section. Now we move higher up into the hills, Ingebrek Gully on the Brandywell Road, and getting close to the highest point in the Isle of Man here. You just see cap of mist there on the surrounding hills. This is a tricky gully here, and it's one of those ones where you have to get going quickly because it's an uphill start, which is not the easiest thing. You've got to compose yourself very quickly on this type of going. Tim Walker got through. Now it's Wayne Wardle, one of the local riders, and up in that tricky muddy slot there, taking the wheels out of the slot and throwing you to one side and having to put your feet down when you don't want to. Gary Bingley now from Cumberland. Cumbria, I suppose we should say now. Cumberland it always used to be, and there's a clean for him on the clubman's route. And 149 is Gareth Temple, another local competitor. Hard left round there on those slates, and there's his right foot out, as I said. If the front just isn't quite in the groove, you've got to balance it through, and it's not always easy. And Colley knows this. He's on the expert version, which entails an extra twist in this corner up by the fence. See him, oh, just flicking a rock to one side there. It's technically against the rules, but everybody does it. If you don't fancy that on your line, just give it a little tweak. He seems happy enough with life though. This is early Sunday morning with the competitors running in reverse numerical order. There's Dew and Knight as well, just having a sweet to keep him moving along. Hope it's not an aspirin for the beer he's had the night before. And here's Colley. We'll just watch him go now. This is second gear without doubt. And he's got the harder bit to do. Up into the corner, up over the slabs, the old broken down wall there, down now into the groove. And look, his expertise brings him through there. Many another rider there would have been on his side, without doubt. Saskia Baxter now, the others run to get out of the road. If in fact somebody's in this section, you can ask for a re-ride. And she's in problems, left foot out. Can she hang on to it for a one? Yes, she does. That's good. That's no shame. A 1 mark on there. 1, 2, 3 is the next rider up. And that is Dew and Knight, with his sleeves rolled up even more than on Saturday. He uses his legs a lot, Dew, to flick the bike through, but he doesn't lose anything on that whatever. And of course he's in the top 6. And he's Nigel Crellin. I know his father was worried about this section. He said it's just the sort of place you can come unstuck. Let's see if he does. Oh, ever so slowly round into the groove now. And out he goes. Oh, and he's showboating it out the end there to celebrate that good clean. As we move now down into the Solby Valley to Tholty Will. And a bit more shelter down here for the marshals and spectators. And you see the riders coming up the public road there at the top and then down the path. In fact, I think the riders at the top are leaving the section and these others are just entering it. It's spread out over such a long time, 3 or 4 hours, as the riders come down the grassy path into the quarry and wonder what horrors the organisers have laid on. Usually this is one of the places the trial itself is actually sorted out. It's got loads of places to have observed sections, but just look at those rocks. What do they do to tired riders? And streams to go with it. 2, 4, 5 there. Matthew Jones from Scunthorpe gets into the corner, left foot down there, and he's stopped. He might get a 5 for that, but probably not. And that is a really tickler, isn't it? It's a real, and he's not out yet. Still a tricky ending to come here. This is all the same observed section. The others wondering whether that's the correct line. And watch this end bit out onto the path. Many a section is lost right at the very end when the rider thinks he's done it and relaxes, and away it goes. And the next rider up is Leo Heavey from the Motor Enthusiasts Club, number 254, his first Manx 2 day. His foot is down on the right. He looks as if he might be settling for 3 for putting his feet down, but there's 2, 3 now. Once your foot's down more than 3, you can't lose any more unless you stop. So 3 it is for him as he wiggles it out. In fact, he only just gets out at all. As we switch now to the joint leader in the clubman's class, Neil Christian, number 213. He dearly loved to win it. He almost did the year before, and he's trying this time to take the premier in this clubman's class on his Scorper machine, 2-stroke 250, and he's a good clean there, quite quick, but absolutely perfect, and that's a very, very good ride as an early man on that section. It's quite slippery. 248 is Gerard Redden, See, he's got a little inner tube taped to the back mudguard there in case he needs it, but he gets stuck there. Can he recover to keep? He's just keeping moving forward, only just. It's a tricky section, and a decent observer would give him that. Say, yes, okay, that's 3 marks lost for that. And that's what the general club boys are happy enough about. Glencord, all the way from Dublin now. And the Southern Irishman sees plenty of rocks, I should imagine, but that one is tricky. You're at a terrible angle there, and you've got to have confidence in the extreme if you're to stay perched up on those rocks without sliding away, and that's a 3 for him as well. If you put your foot down twice, it's only 2, but then after, it's 3 or 5. Another 2-stroke Montesa here. Sean Hazelwood from Bolton. Flicking, bouncing the suspension, and he's in trouble. He's too low down. He's got to get it back. Left foot goes out to help him. Down into the stream. Can he hang on now? This is tricky. It's getting worse. As the wheels polish the water up onto the rocks, it's making it slippery, and the back wheel spins, and again, it's a 3. Neil Christian, though, a very good ride on that. There's Thomas Sharkey on duty again as an observer. What a family they are. They're either riding or they're marshalling. Put everything into trials. Braddon Jones from Llangollen. Good Manx name there, Braddon. Famous place on the TT course, Braddon Bridge. But this is a long way from here, and racing round the TT course is a long way from this caper, and he's in trouble there. I don't think he's going to get 3 for this. I think they'll say he stopped, and therefore it's a 5 on the board. Not to worry, there's loads of time to go yet. And it's just a case of trying to keep the marks down, keep on time, but he's off it, and any query about his earlier mark is easily resolved there. It most definitely is, I'm sorry to say. A 5 as local man Andrew Cubban, who also is on the organising committee. Used to be the chief marshal, I think, at one time, but all the local lads do lots of duties, and I can't quite see whether, yes, his feet are down there. He's having a bit of a time. 2 marks I think he's having up to there. If he can get out of here, he might keep it at 2, but no, there's another one, and he converts that to 3. So often you hang on for so long, and then the mark gets away right at the end. What a shame. Now Saskia Baxter, what can she do? That bit there is the tricky bit. She's up for 1 though. Can she hang on now for that? Will 1 do her? Maybe 2. Ah, and the front wheel was out through the flags, so I don't think that 3rd mark will count. It's decided you're in the section when the front wheel spindle goes through the starting cards, and you're out when the front wheel spindle goes out through the cards. So if you're falling off, the answer is to open the throttle hard and try and fly out through the cards before you crash completely. Here's Colley. Now they've got the expert version to do. There's 3 of the top 6 riders there. Colley leading, Crellin 3rd, and Knight in 6th position. Yeah, it's tricky a day. This group will make or break whoever comes out here on the least. It's going to be tight. I've just had a 3 back there. I'm the first one out of the section. Everyone else has 5'd it before me, but Dan Thorpe, who was 2nd yesterday, is just behind us, so I don't know how he's getting on. Had another dab as well, so I'm 4 for today so far to here. Obviously with the 6 from yesterday, I'm 10 total, so these are difficult. It's important to clean these. We've got a difficult one here and just around the corner, so I'm pretty nervous at the moment. I just want to get these out of the way. Once I get these out of the way, lunch break, have a bite to eat. I'm starving. We've been going for like 6 hours already. I'd say I've got to get these. If I do, I'm halfway there.
Just had a 5 on the last one there, but can't see many people getting through, so alright, I think. Good.
Not too bad, yeah. Quite steady at the minute. A few slack dabs here and there, but not bad to my standard these days anyway. Riding around with Colley and all doesn't help much, because you see them make it look easy and you think, oh, that's not bad, and then it's a bit harder than it looks. But I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I like up this end of the island like more than yesterday, so far it's been going quite good, enjoying it really. Just want me dinner now.
During night, looking forward to a sandwich then. First of all, he's got to take these 3 or 4 sections at Tholty. His business is just down the road at Sulby, so he's familiar with this area all right. And look at them go. Up he goes into the left. Now then, right foot down there. That's the expert version, which is much, much harder. Can he hang on now for a 1? He's got to get up this slippery path with all the water dragged up onto it, but he goes up over the left, different line, you notice. And out. That was just 1 mark that cost him, and he got good value from it. Can Crellin clean it to maintain his grasp on third position. He's going really well, but there's no power much in this bike compared with the big lads, so he's got to rev it hard to get there. He's only lightweight, of course, which helps. Up there he goes, now left, and over the drop, down into that gully, still feet up, wiggles it round. Can he hang on? Very, very good rider. He's only just 17, and he's still clean. Can he get up the path? Second gear up there probably, and he does, and bounces it out. And if that's not worth applause, then what is? And now Colley, very nervous. This is where it can all go wrong. If you're just an inch or two offline, you're down, and 5 marks on the board. Colley, though, is well used to concentration at high world level, and he's still got what it takes. In that corner, trapped a bit, we're just a bit out of view, but I don't think he had his foot down. Pretty sure he's clean. Ah, but there's a dab with his left foot on the easy bit. Isn't that extraordinary? And that brings Thorpe tantalisingly a little bit nearer, perhaps. He's nuzzling first place, and Colley will know that's a mark he shouldn't have had. He'd done the really hard bit. And there's Krellin talking to David Harding. And there's Dewin Knight now in the top corner of Tholty Will. And this is one of the classic trials sections. Just watch this. It's a murderous climb up, and then a really slow descent down onto the slates, and then try to get the bike to pull away from nothing on slates that just slide and slip all over the place. And you can see they're worried about it. They're wondering where to go. Colley, in fact, is trying to get some heat into his back tyre to give it just a little bit more grip. It also doubles up by clearing the mud out of the treads of the tyres. But you can see how hard he's trying here. He really does have to do this clean, especially after that slack dab, as Dewin Knight would say on the previous section. Now just watch this for build-up for one observed section, and remember there are about 40 or 50 of these each of the 2 days. He backs his bike up to make sure he's on a perfect line, because you've got to drop the clutch and go up this steep bank straight away. I imagine it'll be third gear for this one, and then changing down to second. You see him feeling the clutch there to get the right gear, and this is it for Colley now. I'm sure this is one of the big tests of the day. There he is, balance just about to start, and when he's satisfied he'll drop the clutch, bounce the suspension down, and try and flick up on top of this rock, but it's wet and slippery. Here he goes, third gear, yeah. Now knocks it down to second gear for this, and look at this, over the edge of a cliff virtually, and you've still got that treacherous climb out over the loose slate. Look at the back wheel skidding. He holds it though, and up high and flicks it round. Now he goes for it, up he goes, up he goes, up he goes, and I think he's out for a clean. Unless we missed that, he did it, and he's very glad to do that. That is a lot of pressure off Colley, and after him comes 166, Josh Woods from Macclesfield. Very dodgy, you could really crash there in a big way, and a lot no doubt did. He's too slow there though, and it just shows you the difference between world-class riders and national riders, and he spins to a halt. You look at Colley and you wonder how he does it. You see the best boys and it makes it look, as Dewin Knight said, so easy. Now Nigel Krellin on this one. The little bike's going to be screaming up there, but he gets it up. Oh, but a flick there with his right foot costs him 1 mark. He didn't really need it, but he thought the front was going to slip away, and he thought it was better to take that precautionary dab, and he screams the little bike up. There's another one though, so that's 2, and he's got to get it out now. Can he bounce it out through? And he does. That is 2 marks for him. And here's Dewin Knight. Different line there on the approach, see, much better, but skiddy down here. Very spinny. Over this drop now with the clutch hard in, brakes on, and up high on the bank, and now lather it up the bank out. And he does it. He's up over that step, but right at the crucial time he has a 1, but he won't mind that. That could easily take 5 marks from even the top boys. Look how steep it is. That's the bottom view of it, and look at this. That's the bit we couldn't see before, and down into that hole. And then hairpin right. It's fine flying down. Little stab getting away there. And in fact he comes completely to grief. He's flopped over, he isn't hurt I don't think, but it's very difficult to get a bike out of there. You've got to turn it round. And this is the approach to that self-same section at Tholty Will. And the rider's there dropping down. Look how steep it is. And on the brakes, but overdo the brakes, you lock the front up and fly over the handlebars in a jiffy. But this section is all about this end bit, climbing back up out of it into the top quarry, but he gets up okay there. In fact, this is one of the problems. If you throw your bike in a pool of water and it goes underneath, fills the engine up, you can empty it by turning the bike upside down, as this rider's doing. And usually if you clean the air filter and put a new plug in, you'll be okay.
Yeah, it's been good. A little bit on the easy side so far this morning, but there have been a couple of tricky ones. This one behind me is usually a hard one. I haven't had a chance to have a look at it, but we'll see how we go.
Still some of your steep heels?
Yeah, trying to. I think we're matching each other. He's had a 3 just back there and I've done the same, so it seems like we're matching each other.
Not too bad. I just had a 5 over there, which is a bit disappointing, but never mind. It happens.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's good. And the sun's out as well, so it makes it really nice.
So now it's Dan Thorpe, just a couple behind Colley at this point. And can he clean this? Can he get through? Or will he come to a stop as many others have done? He's going fast, up over the harbit, leans right forward, hangs on. And that's a beautiful ride. That is a really classy ride. And now Katie Sunter. Slow approach there slightly, and of course the clubman's route for her, so she doesn't have to go down into that bottom hole, but it's still tricky getting out of here, still just as slippery at the very top. And she hangs on, and that's a neat ride, crouches over the bars and lightens the back wheel to make it deliberately spin to get more drive. Now number 105, Will Longdon from the Hillsborough Club. And again, wrestling with the same problem. In fact, things are getting worse now because the top slates have gone and you're getting down to the mud, and that, with the water carried up from the stream below, makes for a very difficult combination indeed. But somehow scrabbles up for a 3. It's always a relief to get up on there because it's such a problem to get away if you don't. And now we move across the island to the Dune Quarry on the eastern coast of the Isle of Man, overlooking Cumbria. And this is a fearsome place as well. It offers a good variety of terrain. But firstly we look at the rocks and holes of section number 2, and this is an off-camber approach to a tricky right-hand hairpin, and it's all about confidence. And you see those lads, perhaps they'll be doing this in a few years. You can start in schoolboy trials very young if your father can afford the machinery, but they're getting a taste of it. And here's Saskia, kick-starts the bike with her left leg, little short stroke engine and a little short gear lever and a little short kickstarter makes restarting the bikes quite hard. 179, Philip Turner of Manchester 17 Club. Puts his right foot out there and see him having a problem keeping on the little path. That's a path, you could have fooled me. Now hairpin right, this is tricky, and about a 10-foot drop if it goes wrong. And he'll be happy to get out of there for what I think was a 2 marks. Next is Paul Boehm, I think, 182 on the starting mark there. You can wait your turn. You can start from any point you like. Nearly everybody's in the same place. He's having a mark there. He's on the harder route. And this right-hander now, very delicate indeed on the brakes and the throttle and the clutch, all working to coordinate it. And then that final shoot back down into the pool. Rescuing up there, a couple of dozen riders maybe, but they're all right on time, they're not rushing it too much. 169, Chris Grundy from Bolton. See the back wheel is locking as he dabs the back brake. And this is quite skillful, and in fact many of the road racers use this in the winter to keep their fitness. Here's Andrew Cubban again. Looks a bit worried, doesn't he? No wonder with this coming up. Where will I go? Where are the flags? Where's that rock that's a problem? Am I okay? Second gear probably. Through that tricky starting bit there. Now you've got to get it to pull away from nothing. He's up though. He's done it. He's got to keep it tight round here though. If your front wheel goes over that rock on the left where he is now, you've had it. But he hangs on, and that's clean as it. Yep, just makes it nicely. And here's Saskia Baxter on this one. What will she do here? On the clubman's route, of course. Tricky there. Clean though, quite quick approach, nearly puts her feet down, hangs on. Now then, what about this? Sit, look at the way she repositions herself, out, left leg bent to hold the bike against the camber, and she's done it. Good ride. In fact, she reflects upon that there. And Colley, again, still wondering, can he hang on? Still just in the lead, but only 2 or 3 marks in it. Looking at his watch to make sure his overall time allowance is okay. And walks the section. You can walk it any number of times you like, but of course you don't hang around too long, otherwise your overall schedule goes to pieces. A little bit of a breeze springing up there. Cool the riders down, and you watch Colley, watch his feet just moving pebbles. There you are, a little bit of an adjustment. Doesn't actually do anything, it's psychological. As the others go through, Colley makes a note of where they're hitting trouble, and if they've moved any of the rocks, he'll walk through again and just tap them down. See him doing that. And in fact he's moved one himself there, but that won't make much difference. And the stars are all riding together. There's Dew and Night. You'll see the family there, I think, waving to the children. And his brother far away in America riding in the World Enduro Championship. And here's Colley, here he goes. Got to clean it, he's got to clean everything now if he's to win. No suggestion of a mark there so far, carefully round. He's not showing off when he flicks the back, it just brings the bike straight without the risk of sliding away, but that's no problem to Steve from Onken, who was 3rd in the Indoor World Championship and 5th in the Outdoor World Championship at the height of his career, and is still the darling of Europe for his indoor arena trials displays. Dew and Night, still with those sleeves rolled up. If he could get his jacket open, he would, I'm sure. Doesn't care about anything, just lets it all wash over him. He's got responsibility now, running his own business, and a family of 2. And there's Nigel Crellin slaving away, hoping against hope he can hang on to that 3rd place, which would be absolutely marvellous for him. Looks a bit apprehensive though. And it's a very long, tough, hot weekend riding a 2-day motorcycle trial, and he slips himself. If he'd have done that on the bike, it would have cost him 5. You can break your ankle doing that sort of thing pretty easily too. So number 135, Crellin, pointing towards home at the dune. You're moving towards the end of the trial, but still plenty of hazards in the way which can upset and undo all your previous efforts. There's Thorpe wondering, can I get Colley back? Probably thinking, I think it's unlikely at this stage, but as I say, it's certainly not over. Walks along that little path that the wheels of the bikes are in there. He's just kicking the more tricky rocks to one side. He could be asked to replace them, but it's pretty rare. Only if he really moves a big one would he be asked to say, hey, put that back. And here's Nigel Crellin now, deep in the jungle of the Dune Quarry. And up the high bit he goes. He also flicks the background. He rides just like Steve Colley, and no wonder, as he understudies him by practicing with him most days of the week. Just passed his test on car and bike. He's Dew and Night, always a bit quicker than the others. His motocross experience brings that in, and sits right back, sits much further back on the bike than Colley and Crellin. It doesn't make any difference, the result's the same, and it's a clean, but the bike won't be going through that pongy mud. Down Thorpe now then. Flicks the front off that rock on the left. Second gear this will be all the way through, and it's getting a little bit of a path in it now, but that sometimes is not always an advantage, but it is in this case. Sammy Ball, I think it is, in the background looking on enviously as the rest queue up for their turn, and the queue has disappeared. If it's a fairly straightforward section, the queues don't build up. It's only really where the bikes get stuck and the riders have to drag them out when the time builds up. But they're going okay. And now the final stretches of the trial in the stockbroker belt of Onken at Happy Valley. Doug Lampkin and Neil Hodgson both live up there. Neil Hodgson, the former world road racing champion in superbikes, and Doug Lampkin, former world trials champion. He's Saskia again, getting plenty of film coverage of her, And this is at Happy Valley, the final 2 sections of the trial, and she'll be very glad to get through them and get a shower and a tea. Going well here, and there's one mark with her left foot, and that perhaps might do her. No, there's another. So she rounds the trial off there. In fact, I think she's out there, so I think that was only 2. He's the big boys. There's Nigel Crellin and his father Mark stalking the section to see if they can round it off with a clean, which would probably seal him 3rd place. He was nicely clear of the pursuers, and he hasn't made many errors. In fact, it's been an exemplary round for him, for such a youngster at the start of his career. And there's Colley, perhaps giving a bit of Jen what to do here, because this is a practicing ground of Colley. You see him down here on his own in the winter, labouring away on a pouring wet Monday morning, keeping his talents sharpened. And here he goes. What will he do here? 5 here, and the trial will be lost. Unlikely, but still could happen. Anything can trip him up. But here he goes. Gallery watching intently. Oh, there's a dab though. There's one mark with his right foot. Perhaps a precautionary one. He flicks it over there. The expert route now involves a big loop up onto the bank here. Up he goes and up the path and round. And it's a 1, so he probably has just hung on to win. And it's a clap, but really he would have expected to have not lost any marks on that. I think probably more nerves than anything. Showtime Colley. His trial is over for this year, and now he must watch to see what Thorpe will do. Well, no matter what Thorpe does, I think Colley's got it, but he's Crellin bidding for 3rd. Everybody is a fan of this young man. Quiet, shy, reserved, man of few words, or youngster of few words, but what talent. And he's clean, he's having no marks up to now, he's stuck in that corner. Look at him working the suspension. He hasn't put his foot down and he's out of that tricky bit. He should do it now, because this last bit's not too bad. It's very steep for all that. Round and into the groove. 2nd gear and up and round, and he's done it just nicely. Didn't hit that big rock on the way down. Oh, very quick descent down to the finish, and he's cleaned it, and that should be good for top 3 placing. And suddenly it's all over. John Watterson of Manx Independent newspaper getting the story from Steve Colley. But still, for the others, it goes on. Colley must just sit and wait now to have the scores confirmed, because although you know how many marks you've lost yourself, the others won't tell you what they've had, so you've got to wait for the official verdict. Once it's over, most riders will usually compare notes. Thorpe then into the corner. I don't think even a 5 here would mean him caught by Crellin, so he's got that luxury, but he'll still want to finish the trial with a flourish, which is exactly what he does. Up round, slowly, oh, very slowly, agonisingly slowly compared to what he would have wanted, down to the bottom, out through the flags, and his 2006 Manx 2-day trial is over. So who's won? We'll tell in a moment. And it looks like Colley's done it. Thorpe shakes hands sportingly with him.
Just when you sump out, you know, when you go around the back, I sumped out and it pulled right straight away. Had a dab there. What are you totaling?
What were we before?
5 totals, that's 5 and 9. Yeah. 14. You know how close it is?
Yeah, 2, isn't it?
No, 13.
Was it?
Yeah, with that dab.
How else are you 6 today?
I'm 6.
7.
7 today. 7. Really close. Dan pushed us all the way this weekend, and we think it's 1 mark. Obviously we won't know tonight till the presentation, but yeah, I can't really say I've enjoyed it. It's been quite difficult riding around. There hasn't been too many hard ones, and the hard sections that there's been, you know, he's taken the same marks off both Dan and I. You know, yesterday we both had a 5 in the same place. Today we both had a 3 in the same place, so it makes it pretty tight like that. But he's ridden well, and another win for me, which is obviously nice, but it's going to come to an end soon, and I think this guy will probably be the guy to beat us.
Hope so.
So Dan, it looks like it's 2nd place.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think, you know, Steve's gone for the 11th was it 11th consecutive win?
Yeah.
Have been going for a lot of consecutive second places now. I'm sure there should be a nice little mention for that as well. I've had a few on the trot. Not quite what I want, but yeah, it's been a close run event again.
So next year's a win?
It'd be nice, yeah. It'd be nice to catch Steve on a bad day. I mean, he's had a few wobbly ones this weekend, but not enough, I think. But yeah, it's been close.
And with an exceptional ride, young Nigel Crellin from the Isle of Man makes it 2 Manx riders in the top 3, with Dew and Knight also moving up to 4th, making 3 in the top 6.
Yeah, really happy with that. Didn't think I'd get top 5, and then got 3rd, so really happy.
So you enjoyed the weekend?
Yeah, it's been good, yeah.
Any bad spots? Particular bad spots?
Not really. I had a dodgy 5 at the stacks on the Saturday. I thought it should have been a 1, but Observer thought it was a 5, so fair enough, and then happy enough with everything else.
So you're happy man this weekend?
Oh, definitely.
So Colley, Thorpe and Nigel Crellin the top 3 in the experts. In the clubmans, it's Jeremy Darlington the win with 32 marks lost, Simon Levitt 7 back on 39, and Neil Christian didn't get the win and lost 2nd place on countback, also losing 39. And our featured rider Katie Sunter there doing very well and finishing a fine 7th.
I really enjoyed it. I've had quite a good weekend. I was lying in 12th place after yesterday, so hopefully I haven't dropped too many today. But it's been good.
Did you enjoy the weekend?
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Well, we didn't manage to catch up with them throughout the weekend because they were in different areas to the solos for obvious reasons, but the sidecar class was also well supported, and despite problems with illness during the trial, Robin Luscombe and Les Ashby managed to survive to win on the 4-stroke Montesa. Robin Luscombe's got more Manx Swords of States for winning than in fact I think the entire states of Jersey, Guernsey and the Isle of Man combined. But the Manx 2-day trial, as always, living up to its billing as Britain's largest and most enjoyable sporting event of its type.